Hello and welcome to 5-Year Club, video number 138, Refilm Edition. Because the audio was not captured on my last video, which I should have known, because I should have been able to hear my voice through the mic, and I would not have been able to. The program glitched, so I hadn't touched any settings even, it's just the computer messed up. And now I get to redo it. David Bowie hair edition, morning edition. No, it's not really David. See, look, David Bowie would be ashamed of this. That's not good enough. Give that man some gel. Okay. Coffee. Today's video is on preserving savings. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. Warren Buffett. And I think that's a really important concept to remember. It's not a very exciting concept. It's not exciting in the way that making money is exciting. But if you don't keep that money around, it's not going to be around later. So it's a true rule. Okay. New Year's resolutions. Gyms count on people failing in their New Year's resolutions. So they count on those subscriptions in January and people continue paying them and people don't go into the gym. And similarly, people who make annual financial, like, I'm going to do better financially resolutions, they also mostly fail. And it's not because resolutions are bad. It's because change is hard. And there's a lot of really tempting stuff out there. So even if you save up, $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is in January, there's all the cool laptops come out in the summer and then you buy one and then it's over. No more savings for you. The laptop was too tempting. For many years, I was unable to build up substantial savings exactly because of that kind of situation. But that's changed, and I've accumulated more emergency savings now than I have ever before, which I'm pretty excited about. But even beyond that, what I've noticed in the last few months is that even though I am very tempted in the same way that I've been tempted in the past to buy things, specifically tempted by a video camera and a laptop, I haven't made any of these big material purchases, and my savings have stayed intact. And that's pretty cool. And I wanted to think about tonight why that's happened for me, why it's working for me. Because you would think that, like, I've got more savings, I've got lower expenses right now than ever before. Why wouldn't I purchase something? Like, it should be, like, the barrier to purchasing it should be, like, as low as possible right now. Because I could purchase these things and still be perfectly fine. But, there's other stuff going on. So I wanted to discuss the reasons why I've been able to maintain my savings, and hopefully you can copy some of those reasons and maintain more of your own savings. And then have it for later so that when you save more money, your net worth builds up and grows and you see progress instead of this kind of like save and then slide back and save and slide back. Number 1 is that any transfer I make from my savings account takes at least 4 days to get to my checking account. This isn't the best for an emergency fund, but I've actually found over time there are very few big bills that will require you to pay within 4 days in cash. And as a result, I really don't need emergency savings that fast. Like just objectively speaking, I have never needed emergency savings that fast. And the 4-day delay means that, number 1, if I can't purchase something of the moment. I have to decide to purchase it and then think about it for 4 days. And yeah, in 4 days, I would say about 75% of the time, I decide not to make the purchase. But just the knowledge that it will take me 4 days to get the money causes me to not even start doing the transfer. So I don't know. Maybe there's some other heuristic going on there, some other brain estimation thing that my brain is using not to make that to transfer decision. Another thing that keeps me from transferring money out of savings is that my savings are not in cash. They're kept in stocks and bonds, about 60% bonds, about 40% stocks. It targets a return of about 5% per year, and in a downturn like 2008, it's possible I could lose like 28% of it, and for that reason, I overfund the account. But a 5% return every year is way more likely to beat inflation than the typical 1% returns of many savings accounts today. And the account is up overall since inception. So I think it's a decent emergency fund system. There's an article I could link to about it. Anyway, the stock market's really volatile right now. I think even this morning, the stock market dropped by about 1%. Or at least my holdings in the stock market dropped by 1%. And there's this idea, I guess, that if I withdraw money from savings, it's actually going to be sold the next day. And because the stock market's so volatile right now, I worry about market timing risk. Like if I take out, I don't know, say $1,000, I could lose $10, just to stock market risk. And, that's kind of like a withdrawal fee. And it's not a guarantee, on average, it shouldn't happen, and it's not a guaranteed loss. But just the idea hits me the wrong way. And so it makes me think whoa, do I have any cash that I can use instead so I don't have to sell any of this stuff? And that causes me to plan ahead more for my expenditures. If I have a large expenditure, such as a property tax or home insurance, I plan to pay it out of my income instead of paying it out of savings. And the result this has over time is that I do not pull money from savings, which makes it feel wrong and bad and dirty to pull money from savings. And there's a feedback loop when you don't pull money from savings that encourages you to not pull money from savings. So maybe you can take advantage of that feedback loop somehow. Maybe you could save, I don't know, $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is, and then put it into an account that you can't touch for 6 months or a year and let it age in there. And you'll get that money back in 6 months or a year. And at that point, though, the money will be like the old money. And it doesn't feel good to touch old money. I know that there are some people, for example, where they might inherit some money and they don't want to spend it. They don't want to touch it because they still kind of feel like it's the money of the relative who died, and it feels like they're doing something bad to the relative who died if they touch that money. And I think that feeling has some merits because the truth of the matter is way more people waste inheritance than spend it wisely. So, on average, if you can convince someone not to touch inheritance, that's probably a good deal because most of the time when they touch it, they're going to touch it to buy a car. But at the same time, we have to do wise things with money and not just let it sit in a bank account because it's been there for a while. However, in the case of maintaining savings and not spending it, it's a thought worth considering that the less that you touch the savings and the more that you plan ahead, the more emotionally uncomfortable it is to touch the savings and the more stable you're going to be. So any way that you can figure out how to lock that money into the savings account just to kind of reset the way that you think about the money in your mind, I think it's a good move. Another factor in my high savings rate is the fact that I have delayed so many purchases so many times over the past 4 years. And when you do that over and over again, you begin to understand that delaying a purchase is a successful strategy. And then delaying a purchase doesn't seem like only downside. It seems like, there's some downside because you don't get the item immediately, but there's also some upside because you have more savings. And so I tell myself all the time, Mari, get off the table. That's what I tell myself. Oh, I've got a hat. I I tell myself all the time, oh, just delay it for another month, just push it out a little bit more. So the delay I've talked about before, it's also a very powerful tool. Another big reason, I think, is because I have all of these boxes in my kitchen that are full of books that I don't have time to read. And that is a reminder that I have bought too much object stuff, too much material stuff in the past. And so I kind of have this unofficial ban on buying more material stuff to be happy. And I tell myself, no, you need to get rid of that stuff in the kitchen first. You don't need to acquire more things. And finally, I consider the time factor. I think about everything I need to do, and will I have time to use this thing that I'm buying? Like a 4K high dynamic range TV sounds amazing to me right now. Those LG TVs, they look amazing. And we've got, the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro with like really cool video games. And that's very tempting. But I don't have time to play video games. And so it would be a waste of money because I wouldn't be able to get my time out of it. Speaking of time, I've talked about the importance of focus before. Certainly when you're paying off debt and going through the slog and kind of the emotionally unpleasant beginning part. I think one of the reasons I've been successful is because I have more well-defined ranked priorities in my life. There are like 5 of them. Making these videos is one of them. The upside to having very clear ranked priorities is that it does cause progress to happen on those priorities. But the downside is that when you have 5 things that you're super focused on doing, and you always try to make sure that you're working on one of those 5 things, your life doesn't have as much spontaneity and your life doesn't have as much novelty. And the overall impact of missing spontaneity and novelty is your life is less fun. And I think if your plan for your entire life was to live like that, it would be a bad plan because you wouldn't be a very happy person. However, I've noticed for me that I'm most productive when I go in kind of seasons of work and then seasons of play and seasons of work and seasons of play. And it's just very clear to me that I'm in a season of work right now. And what that means is that, during my next kind of long-term planning session, I'm going to explicitly plan in some spontaneity and novelty and play and weird new stuff in there so that I don't miss out on it overall, so that I have an overall balanced life. People talk about having a balanced life as in like you need to have like these 6 things every single day. I haven't found that to be a successful strategy for me. I found the successful strategy for me is to have a temporarily unbalanced life and make a lot of progress in one area because it's unbalanced, but then plan to pull back from that and make changes later to accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish. Having these savings is going to help you to pursue a strategy like that. Savings is wonderful when you need to make big changes in your life. If you want to have a baby, having a bunch of savings is a great part, a great way to have a baby and not worry about things. That's a really obvious fact, Lewis. This is a dumbass video. Okay, fine. Look, it's a re-record. I didn't plan on re-recording this. Go lip read the blank video, and maybe that one will be so much better. It's a Tuesday. All right, we're done. Thank you for watching the re-record of 5-Year Club video number 138. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope one of these savings concepts help you to save, not just save more money, but keep the savings you already have. Put in controls so that you don't backslide. And other than that, have a fabulous day.